Have you ever wondered what would happen if the sun simply disappeared? Not tomorrow, not next year, but on the day our star finally reaches the end of its life. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, but it's not. The death of the sun is one of the few events in the future of our solar system that scientists know will happen with absolute certainty. The only mystery is when. Right now, the sun feels eternal. Every morning it rises. It warms our planet. It powers our weather. It drives the oceans, the forests, and every living thing on Earth. Without it, life would never have existed. And yet, like every star in the universe, the sun was born. It has lived for billions of years. And one day, it will die. But don't worry, this won't happen anytime soon. The sun is about 4.6 billion years old, and astronomers estimate it still has roughly 5 billion years of life remaining before it reaches its final stages. To put that into perspective, when the sun finally begins to die, every mountain on Earth will have changed countless times. The continents will have drifted into completely different shapes. Human civilization, as we know it today, will be unimaginably ancient. The future we're about to explore is almost impossible to comprehend. But according to modern astrophysics, it is the most likely fate of our entire solar system. The story begins deep inside the sun's core. Every second, our star converts around 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium through nuclear fusion. This incredible process releases enormous amounts of energy. That energy travels outward before finally reaching space as sunlight. Every ray of sunshine you feel on your skin began its journey in the heart of the sun. For billions of years, this balance has remained remarkably stable. Gravity constantly tries to crush the sun inward. Fusion pushes outward. The two forces perfectly balance each other. That's why the sun has remained almost unchanged for billions of years. But this balance cannot last forever. Little by little, the sun is running out of hydrogen. Every second, every minute, every year, its fuel supply slowly decreases. At first, nothing dramatic happens. In fact, the sun gradually becomes brighter. Scientists estimate that every billion years, its brightness increases by roughly 10%. That may not sound significant, but for Earth, it changes everything. Long before the sun actually dies, our planet will begin to suffer the consequences. Around 1 billion years from now, temperatures on Earth will rise enough to trigger dramatic climate changes. The oceans will slowly begin to evaporate. Water vapor will accumulate in the atmosphere, trapping even more heat. The process feeds on itself. Temperatures continue rising. The oceans shrink. Eventually, Earth may lose nearly all of its surface water. The blue planet we know today would become almost unrecognizable. Forests would disappear. Rivers would dry up. Most forms of life would struggle to survive. And this is happening while the sun is still alive. The real transformation comes much later. Once the hydrogen in the sun's core is almost exhausted, gravity begins winning the battle. The core starts collapsing under its own immense weight. As it compresses, temperatures soar even higher. Then something extraordinary happens. The outer layers of the sun begin expanding. Slowly at first, then faster. Our familiar yellow star starts transforming into something far more terrifying. A red giant. Its diameter grows larger and larger. Millions of kilometers. Then hundreds of millions. The sun becomes hundreds of times wider than it is today. From Earth, if anyone were somehow still alive to witness it, the sky would no longer be dominated by the gentle sun we know. Instead, a colossal red star would fill an enormous portion of the heavens. The heat would be unimaginable. Mercury would disappear first, then Venus. And as the sun continued expanding, one terrifying question would remain. What happens to Earth? Would our planet survive? Or would it become the sun's final victim? That is where the story becomes even more dramatic. As the sun continues to expand, the inner solar system begins to disappear. Mercury is the first to be consumed. For billions of years, it raced around the sun every 88 days. Now, its journey comes to an end. The tiny planet is swallowed by the growing red giant, vaporized by temperatures so extreme that even solid rock cannot survive. Soon after, Venus follows. A world once similar in size to Earth is erased forever, disappearing beneath the sun's enormous outer atmosphere. By now, the sun has become almost unrecognizable. Its brilliant yellow glow has faded into a deep orange red. Its surface is cooler than before, but because it is so much larger, it shines with thousands of times more total energy than it does today. From Earth's orbit, the sky would be terrifying. The sun would appear dozens of times larger than it does now. Daylight would be an endless crimson glow. The remaining oceans would have long since vanished. The atmosphere would have become incredibly dense with steam before gradually escaping into space. Temperatures would climb above anything our planet has ever experienced. The surface itself would begin to melt. Entire mountain ranges would slowly collapse into rivers of molten rock. The continents would no longer exist. Earth would become a glowing world of liquid stone. Then comes the biggest question of all. Will the sun actually swallow Earth? For decades, astronomers debated the answer. Some early models suggested that as the sun loses mass during its red giant phase, Earth's orbit could slowly drift outward, allowing the planet to escape. But more recent studies paint a much darker picture. As Earth moves through the outer layers of the swollen sun, friction and powerful tidal forces would begin pulling the planet inward. Its orbit would shrink. Little by little, Earth would spiral toward the dying star. Eventually, our planet would likely cross the point of no return. The crust would completely vaporize. The mantle would disappear. Even Earth's iron core would melt into the sun's outer layers. After more than 4.5 billion years, the planet that gave birth to humanity would simply cease to exist. There would be no trace of oceans, no mountains, no cities, no evidence that life had ever flourished here. Everything would be gone. Mars, however, may experience something very different. As the sun expands, the habitable zone moves farther away. For a brief period, Mars could actually become warm enough for liquid water to exist on its surface once again. The frozen ice trapped beneath its poles and underground might melt. Ancient river valleys, dry for billions of years, could briefly carry water again. If any dormant microbes remained hidden beneath the Martian surface, this might be their final chance to awaken. Even the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn would undergo incredible transformations. Europa's frozen shell could melt. Enceladus' hidden ocean might become exposed. Titan, with its thick atmosphere, could experience temperatures warm enough for entirely new forms of chemistry. For a relatively short time, the outer solar system may become the most hospitable region around the dying sun. It's one of the universe's greatest ironies. As Earth dies, worlds once locked in permanent ice may finally come alive. But this strange, new chapter won't last forever. The red giant phase is violent and unstable. The sun begins losing enormous amounts of material, blowing its outer layers into space through powerful stellar winds. Every second, millions of tons of gas drift away forever. Slowly, the star that once contained more than 99% of the solar system's mass begins shedding itself into the darkness. The solar system is no longer the peaceful place we know today. It has become a cosmic graveyard. And yet, the most spectacular moment of all is still to come. But the sun's final act will also be its most beautiful. After millions of years as a red giant, the star will have exhausted the last of the fuel that kept it alive. Without enough energy to support its enormous outer layers, they begin to drift away into space, slowly at first. Then, in an extraordinary cosmic display, Vast clouds of glowing gas expand outward in every direction, illuminated by the intensely hot core left behind. From thousands of light years away, our solar system would suddenly appear as one of the most breathtaking objects in the galaxy. A planetary nebula. Despite the name, it has nothing to do with planets. It's the final farewell of a dying star. The clouds would glow with brilliant shades of blue, green, red, and violet. Delicate filaments of gas would stretch across billions of kilometers. For tens of thousands of years, the remains of the sun would shine like a giant cosmic flower floating through the darkness. Ironically, the death of our star would create one of the most beautiful sights in the universe. But at its center, only a tiny remnant would remain. The sun would no longer be a giant star. It would become a white dwarf. Although roughly the size of Earth, this tiny stellar core would contain about half the sun's original mass. Imagine compressing an object containing hundreds of thousands of Earths into something no larger than our planet. The result would be one of the densest objects in the universe. A single teaspoon of white dwarf material would weigh several tons on Earth. It would no longer produce energy through nuclear fusion. Instead, it would slowly cool. Year after year, million after million years. Its brilliant white glow would gradually fade. Eventually, after trillions of years, it would become a cold, dark object known as a black dwarf. Interestingly, the universe isn't old enough for a black dwarf to exist yet. Not a single one has ever formed. Every white dwarf in existence is still cooling. That means the final chapter of stars like our sun has never actually happened anywhere in the observable universe. It belongs entirely to the future. What about the rest of the solar system? The giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, will almost certainly survive. But their orbits will slowly expand as the sun loses nearly half of its mass. The gravitational grip that once held the solar system tightly together will weaken. The planets will drift farther away. Many moons will continue orbiting their giant worlds. Asteroids and comets will follow new paths. The familiar architecture of our cosmic neighborhood will be gone forever. If humanity still exists billions of years from now, it almost certainly won't be here. Long before the sun becomes a red giant, our descendants would need to leave Earth behind. Perhaps they will build civilizations around other stars. Perhaps they will live on planets we have not yet discovered. Or perhaps they will spread across the galaxy itself. By the time the sun dies, Earth may be nothing more than a distant memory, a forgotten birthplace, much like ancient civilizations are to us today. And maybe that's the most powerful lesson this story teaches. The sun feels eternal because our lives are incredibly short. To humanity, it has always been there. It always will be. But on the scale of the universe, even stars are temporary. They are born. They shine. They evolve. And eventually, they fade away. Yet their deaths are not the end. When stars die, they scatter the elements that make new stars, new planets, and new life possible. The carbon in your body, the oxygen you breathe, the iron in your blood, were all forged inside stars that died billions of years before our sun was even born. In a very real sense, we are made of stardust. And one day, the atoms that make up our world may become part of another star, another planet, perhaps even another civilization looking up at its own sky, wondering how the universe began. So the day the sun dies will not simply be the end of our solar system. It will also become the beginning of something entirely new. A reminder that in the universe, nothing truly lasts forever, but nothing is ever truly lost. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey through the greatest mysteries of space. Because every star has a story, every galaxy has a history, and somewhere in the endless cosmos, another sun is being born, just as ours slowly moves toward its final sunrise.